Here at O'Brien Real Estate, we're reflecting on our humble beginnings, from a single office in Berwick to our current day statewide presence of 29 offices and our renowned reputation for excellence and doing things differently. Back in October 2010, Dean O'Brien and Darren Hutchins opened the doors of the first O'Brien Real Estate office with a simple yet powerful intention to create a real estate firm dedicated to fostering excellent customer relationships and delivering outstanding service. It didn't take long for Dean and Darren to realise they'd created something that firmly set them apart from the rest. As a result, Dean and Darren, along with Fabian Villala, Matt Duan, Daniel Gallagher and Steve Harrison, formed the Narre Warren and Cranbourne offices in 2011 and 2012. Demand continued and further expansion came organically when in 2013, with the help of Stavros and Mercedes, the franchise operation was established and O'Brien Real Estate was born. The franchise quickly expanded to office number 4 at Chelsea, and later that year Frankston, Pakenham and Endeavour Hills were established. The momentum of this early growth continued as our reputation began to spread. Carrum Downs and Mentone offices opened next in early 2014, and by the end of 2015, offices at Mornington and Croydon popped up, bringing the total to 11. In 2016, Hastings, Langwarrin, Somerville and Rye were open, firmly securing our position as industry leader and agents of choice for Melbourne's East and the Mornington Peninsula. We were well on our way. Moving into the communities of Sydenham, Keysborough, Tacoma and Wantirna in 2017 was a natural progression, and it was in this year that O'Brien Corporate HQ found its now home at Chadstone. Never resting on our laurels, 2018 was a year of exponential growth as the Green and Navy extended to Brighton, Craigieburn, Oakley and Preston Reservoir. Recognising our ability to make a difference, 2018 also saw the launch of the O'Brien Real Estate Foundation, a platform for giving back to the local communities who had shown us so much love and support. To round out a hallmark year for O'Brien Real Estate, we also became the REIV multi-award winning company and an REB winner. It was a year to celebrate all our hard work, and this industry recognition confirmed that we had always believed that we could do things differently and do it well. In 2019, our O'Brien Real Estate family welcomed Cowes, Blackburn and Wirrabee, growing our network to 27 offices. In 2020, our 10th year, we joined forces with Clark to form O'Brien Real Estate Clark in Warragul and Druin, bringing the count to 29. In November 2020, we welcomed O'Brien Cairns and Beaches to far northern Queensland, taking the total to 30 offices. We look to the future with immense pride of our success, but also for the culture we have established over the last 10 years and the people who have become family. And it is this that we are most proud of. We are passionate and full of pride for our brand here at O'Brien, yet humble and appreciative of the communities and clients, and our family and friends. We thank you all for joining us in celebrating 10 years of O'Brien Real Estate, and we look forward to what the next decade has in store. One thing is for certain, you will always see our O'Brien Real Estate agents striving for success through market experience and expertise. It's our difference, and we're proud of it.
Hi, and I'd like to welcome all to our first ever Landlord Night, or now what we call a Rental Provider Night, online here at O'Brien Real Estate. Beside me I have Harry Turner from our O'Brien Real Estate Cranbourne and Isabel Chan from O'Brien Real Estate Berwick. My name is Dean O'Brien. My job here tonight is to guide you through the evening to make sure you feel confident at the end that you're in great hands. The purpose at O'Brien Real Estate is very simple. Any office you walk into, you'll see one thing for sure as you walk through that door. Our job is to facilitate growth. So for all our customers out there, for all you rental providers and renters, for all the team and everything else, every day we get up to make sure that this is the very best day for you to grow. How we do this is we have a very fine set of values that we live by. These are very important for us because these are our roadmap for the future. First, I'd like to talk about family. At O'Brien Real Estate, everyone feels that you are a broader extension of our family. When we get in, that's how we like to help. Mutuality. We believe there is no ivory towers. We just like to be very comfortable. There's not just a single out, but a group of people doing that. Health and energy, again, very important, especially in today's. And have we not seen more of that over the last 12, 18 months with what we've had to bear through over that period of the COVID experience? So whether you've got mental health, physical health, but it's also bringing energy to the table, because that's what we're here to do. Realising potential, one of my favourites. This is where we feel that we want to exceed above anything and just realise our potential, and that is helping you realise your potential. And last is embracing change. Now, that's a significant thing, and I think with these guys here, and as we get through tonight, we'll see a significant value in embracing change, because how the last 12 months has happened for us is really extended that embracing change. So therefore, the purpose of tonight is really simple. We're going to guide you through some of the issues of the past 12 months, and we're also going to go through the changings of the Residential Tenancy Act. We're going to also talk about opportunities to help rental providers, and I'm going to hope that you feel so comfortable that you're in the best hands moving forward. So as we draw near to the end of the year, and that's the financial year I talk about, there's some things that we need to clearly understand. I thought, let's not start, but let's review our last 12 months. And it's been very important to think about the process, because in reviewing that, we can actually see what's happened. Firstly, when we stepped into the 1st of July last year, all of us were a little bit uncertain about our future. We were sitting in a global pandemic, and that was a very awkward spot to be. But we then followed up with some of the challenges out of that global pandemic. We had, obviously, a lot of rental providers and renters losing jobs, or if not losing their job, but losing significant incomes, and therefore that caused us both to have to journey through and travel through and pivot in varying positions from that. We had a rental moratorium never seen before in Victoria that we've been a part of, and therefore, again, a lot of rules that had to be learned. We had a VCAT. They were over 4,000 cases behind. So therefore, again, really hard to get a grip on which way we could move. But the team were always at the base, at the top of the game. We had deferred payments, again, something that hasn't been seen, especially in a Victorian marketplace where we've had immigration and we've had high population growth. To actually think there, we've got to have deferred payments. No evictions, again, and that's put a lot of our landlords, which I'm going to use, rental providers, same thing due to that. But probably the thing that we're here tonight to help through, and it's to navigate through with both Isabel and Harry, is the fact that the 132 changes of the Residential Tenancy Act. Now, let's be clear, we're not going to go through 132 because it's really simple to say these 132, they work in caravan parks, they work in boarding houses, they work in a lot of places. But the main thing we need to clearly understand is we're going to drill down on what affects you the most at the moment. We've also got two great interviews to have tonight. We've got Ed Brown from Smart House Australia. Ed Brown is a corporate partner, and he's going to take us to probably one of the most critical things is the safety of rental properties in this current marketplace. Very important to do that, because that's been one of the significant changes to the Residential Tenancy Act. And then I've got Cameron Owens from Conveni. Conveni is another corporate partner that we've engaged with over the last 2 to 3 years. This is finding a solution for our rental providers in situations where they're awkward. And we're going to have a great example of how that happened. So again, it's going to be a great night with the guys tonight. Now, I would like everyone to text us through any questions you have. Now, the text message, if you want to SMS, the number is 0419 150 041. And we'll try and get back to every question that comes through. But more importantly, we were here to help. And if we don't be upset about that, because we'll actually have a property manager reach out to you directly to actually solve that if you're not clear on that. And again, if there's anything else we can do, we're actually here to help. So as we move forward to that, guys, some of the key things that we want to talk about is just a brief background. I've got Harry Turner here from the Cranbourne, very passionate about property management, been in the industry for a long period of time, and Izzy Chan. And Izzy, so I'm going to start with you, probably is the best way to do.
Yeah.
Current marketplace, we've got a very buoyant sale area at the moment, and you're finding we're getting a lot of requests from rental providers to see where their property sits and selling.
Yes.
But the issue we have with that, there's been significant changes to the rules from the Residential Tenancy Act about selling a rental property.
Yes.
Do you want to take us through that?
Of course. So inspections, sales inspections cannot exceed more than 1 hour in length, and we cannot have more than 2 inspections per week unless previously agreed. So I would recommend to get this in writing, as the renters are now entitled to compensation for each inspection, whether that be an open for inspection or a private. So before we can go in for any inspections, photography or styling appointments, we do need to issue the renters with a 14-day intention to sell notice. So once the date on the notice specified has lapsed, we're then able to enter the property. So that's one of the major changes. There's been no changes to the notice period for the notice to vacate for a sale of a property, so it is still 60 days plus postage. We do, however, need to provide evidence of the sale of the home, so we're finding we're just using a copy of the signed sales authority, and that will suffice.
Talking about that signed sales authority is traditionally, obviously in a real estate environment, we could just hand out a notice to vacate for the purpose of sale. And we could get the sales signed authority later down the track. At this point in time, no. It's got to be straight up front before you can even notice the 14 days of intent to sell.
Yes.
We can receive that, because it's certainly a different change for a lot of landlords that have multiple properties and they've been before. They might think that, oh, well, I did it that way last time. Look, just give them notice. I want to sell, and do all of that.
Yes, so it's been a bit of a change, and having to explain that to all of our rental providers that are wanting to sell as well.
What about, well, I'll touch base on this. What about if the property doesn't sell and they want to release it? What's the rules around that?
We just need to let the renter know that the notice is withdrawn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's the main important thing. It's the fact to get the paperwork right at the start.
Yeah.
Unclear on that. Harry, we talk about notice to vacate. You could extend on that for us, couldn't you?
Yeah, so there were some big changes. One of them is that the 120-day notice that we used to have to be able to issue to a renter for a no-reason notice, that's been abolished now. So we have to give our renters a solid reason to why we're giving them a notice to vacate. So like Izzy mentioned, if you're selling the property, you need to give them a sales authority, or if the property has already been sold, a signed copy of that sales contract. If you need to move into the property yourself or have a family member move in, we need to get a statutory declaration to provide information who needs to move in, what relationship they are to you, and the reasons why they really need to move in.
And we talk about notice to vacates, etc., like that again. And some of these changes, we're just going to spend a bit of time on that. Just for the first thing, notice to sell at the moment and notice to vacates. They're our big things at the moment,
yes,
right, that we're dealing with. So we're going to tackle that at the start. But let's tackle the question here of the changes. I think a lot of people, as we go through them tonight, might feel a little bit uncomfortable with that and feel a little bit, okay, what's that mean to me? And that's what we're here to help. What's your opinion, Izzy, about these changes?
I feel like a lot of the changes, there are obviously quite a few that are quite a lot, but a lot of them are more just clearly defined now. I'm finding a lot of it we were already doing. We were already getting a copy of that signed sales authority anyway. So that's my opinion on it.
And Harry, your opinion on the changes too?
Yeah, they're all positive. It makes things a lot more black and white. Gives us pure process and direction that we have to take to get a satisfactory outcome. Because
we're governed by the media, and the issue with that is it's the noise that we hear after work, and it's the noise that we hear on the radio, etc. And some of the things, my personal opinion in this, I think everyone's entitled to a safe and comfortable house. And with that entitlement, because you pay for the rights of that. So I'm not against these changes. I do find the timing a little bit tough for us, I have no doubt, and especially for our landlords that have been through that COVID experience. And as I said, some might have lost their jobs, some also might have had reduction in opportunities and income, etc., like that. So they sort of lobbed us on it. But again, here at O'Brien Real Estate, we just thought I'd let you know that the team are well adversed and well above and well on top of everything that's actually happened. So that's going to get now, and I'm just waiting for Ed Brown. He's going to join us here in about 30 seconds. He's going to take us through the safety checks and how important this is, and some examples of where people have fallen over for the simplest things, and I know, for example, landlords, rental providers feel that that seems really ridiculous, but it's actually not. So Ed's going to join us now and take us through safety checks. Thanks, guys. We'll just Ed is coming in.
We are the dreamers. We dance through the night in our bones. We can feel it. Aiming for the stars against the sky. When we are together, we are bright. We'll light up
dance.
Hi, and thanks for that short break, because obviously Ed's taken some time out to get in here to the Croc Media Studios in South Melbourne, which is great, and we really appreciate your time. Ed Brown, ex-real estate agent, co-founder of Smart House Australia, probably the busiest man in real estate at the moment, it's fair to say. We all sat back and we obviously communicated well and truly across this board, and we knew there was going to be a massive sugar rush, we could call it, to this, but we never knew when it was going to happen. Now, Ed, Smart House, great partners of O'Brien Real Estate, been there for us a long period of time. Also recognised by the Real Estate Institute of Victoria as the preferred supplier in this space. So congratulations on that. And I think that is also an endorsement within itself. So well done.
Thank you.
Ed, do you want to take us through, you know, what is these safety checks required? Because, you know, a simple check of a plumber going to say this is okay is not okay.
No, that's correct. That's correct. I think probably the most important thing to look at here is there are three changes that have been made or now made mandatory. First and foremost, smoke alarm checks. They need to be conducted within every property. Secondly, electrical safety checks of the property itself. And thirdly, a gas plumbing safety check within the property. So they're all mandatory. They all need to be done. Smoke alarm checks need to be done every year. The other two services, the electrical and the gas plumbing, once every 2 years. And they need to be done by certified and qualified plumbers and electricians. Can't be using apprentices in those spaces at this stage.
Yeah. And some of the things we talked about, you and I have actually spoken about, even a simple stove, a gas hot plate stove. You guys went out and did a check for us, and one of the things that didn't come back, the ignition switch, the typical thing that you push down to start that thing. And for a lot of people who think that's just a simple thing, don't worry about it, but that's not a simple thing anymore.
No, it's not. It's now made mandatory. They all need to be in operational and working order. My personal opinion, the reasoning behind that is purely and simply to stop gas explosions. Not that we've seen a lot of them obviously happening, but it's to prevent that and make it sort of fail-safe moving forward. So there's a few areas, especially within the gas plumbing side, that need to be considered. So carbon monoxide checks as well with heaters to make sure that they're not leaking carbon monoxide, making sure all the installations are safe, both electrically and also with fixtures and fittings to the whether it's the ground or the wall, etc. And making sure that all the gas lines are correct, operational, aren't leaking, etc., etc.
Let's talk about carbon monoxide. It's obviously what they call the silent killer, isn't it?
Definitely.
And when you go out and do these checks and they're not actually up to safety, what do you do?
Well, we do them first and foremost on heaters.
Yep.
And if they are not up to scratch by way of leaking even 1 part per million of carbon monoxide, they're what we deem as unsafe, and they're capped off. So what that basically means is that the connection to the heater itself is physically capped off, so the heater can't be used. And then obviously property managers and then residential rental providers now, not landlords, are obviously then notified of that, and whatever course is needed to physically fix that issue with the heater at that point in time.
Because that's an important thing, because I know that we've, again, under your guidance and everything, we've sent some people out, and our landlords have got a little bit upset over that. And I get to understand, I'm a landlord myself, so I can understand that you weren't ready for that and all that. But it's very important to have a clear understanding that the outcome of the opposite is a lot worse.
Yeah, that's right. No, I think, you know, just briefly, a lot of people can remember the two boys in Mooroopna up near Shepparton that died back in, I think it was May 2010 from carbon monoxide poisoning. So that's obviously an extreme. But we obviously want to be able to make sure that these properties are safe. That was the whole intention behind these 132 reforms that have come in. So if we can make sure that these appliances are working and operating correctly, That's the best outcome. 9 times out of 10, we can generally fix issues that we do find with carbon monoxide leakage, but there is that odd circumstance where heaters do need to be capped off.
And I don't know if you're ready for this question, Ed, but the number of inspections that you've had to be doing over the last, since the new RTA came, what is the volume that's out there at the moment?
As of September last year, so the reforms came in March 28, 29 of this year. Statistics of properties or active bonds since September last year, 628,000 active bonds, approximately 570, 580,000 rental properties in circulation. So those properties need to be all inspected, checked, ticked off by March 28, 2023 in relation to these services. So there's a lot out there. We're doing thousands a week at the moment, thousands and thousands a week at the moment. But it's just a requirement, it's just a need that has to be done. So keeping us very busy.
Yeah, and for our rental providers out there, and I know they might be scared of this, this number, how many actually pass clearly and how many actually need attention to?
Look, it's a really good question. Unfortunately, the pass rate isn't as high as what we would like it to be. I guess one of the things that we are finding is it's only minor issues that we're coming across that need sort of updates and changes. We do obviously find properties where it may be a switchboard, it may be wiring, it may be a new heater, maybe the bigger ticket items. But that just comes with the age of a lot of these properties that are out there as well. So look, generally off the bat, it's about 40% that do pass.
Yep.
For the plumbing side of things, and it's about 45% for the electrical side of things that pass. So unfortunately, it's not a huge volume, but the fixes are quite easy to get a lot of these properties up to spec. But yeah, the electrical side is a side we're actually finding a lot of properties that need little things like power points, light switches, etc., minor fixes to bring the properties up to scratch.
One of the things that I've noticed is with speaking to a lot of our rental providers is, does it have to happen straight away?
It's a really good question.
This is the question, this is the burning question. They hear this, oh, these changes straight away, I've got to get it done, and they start to get a little bit build up of pressure and saying, oh, what do I have to do, what do I do? You just mentioned 2023.
Correct.
So do you want to explain a little bit, when do they need to get it done?
Sure.
And
the requirements.
And the requirements.
Yeah, sure. It's a really good question. It does partially come back to the lease terms that are associated with the property. So tenants do now have, I guess, a right in this space. So if they've entered into a lease agreement after the 29th of March, the new minimum standards now apply within that lease. So they have the right to ask for when the last inspection dates were carried out. If they haven't been carried out at the property, they need to be then classified as urgent maintenance and attended to ASAP. In the event that there are issues that are found at the property, such as, let's use the electrical service side of things, such as a switchboard, if that needs to be replaced, that needs to be replaced by 28th of March 2023. We don't need to actually physically have these checks unless it's enforced on us by tenants until that time frame. However, we also need to look at what if the property actually has issues as well. So if it does need a switchboard, if it does need a heater, etc., we need to consider a potential savings or a plan to put in place to be able to get it rectified within that time frame. Unless it's an emergency works, it doesn't need to be completed tomorrow. However, if it is emergency works, it then falls under the emergency works category of the RTA itself.
Harry, obviously you're dealing with a lot of rental providers and tenants on that. What's your recommendation when, as Ed just explained to us, that when you've got a new lease coming up, get ahead of the game?
That's right. I think as soon as we get a notice from a renter that they're going to be moving out, I'd be suggesting booking in those checks straight away, because I mean, Smart House are backed up so much. We need to get ahead of the game, book it in as quickly as we can, so that we get those checks done for when we find a new renter and they move in.
And we use Smart House, and the reason why is because we feel safe with them. Is that right?
That's correct. The communication is great. The reports we get back are clear and precise, and they really explain what has failed and what the fix needs to be to get it done, to get it up to scratch.
Ed just said, look, 40% is not a great pass rate. Your experience of, what are some of the ticket items that you might come back?
Yeah, I've had a couple of fuse boards, main boards at the front, where the gap between the fuse and the board itself is too big.
Correct.
Which then creates a backflow to allow fire to get back to the property.
That's right.
So that was a new one for me. but like we've said, we've had a lot of face plates for light switches and power points, which Smart House will more often than not fix on the spot if it's only one of them, so that we do get a pass straight away, which is great.
Yeah, any of those minor items, they're generally covered in the cost of the service fee anyway, so we'll do them then and there, so we can walk out with a pass for that property. And I think one of the other things to take into consideration here is these aren't compliance checks, they're safety checks. So I think one of the things I've definitely seen from the residential rental provider demographic is I think we're complying to something. We're actually flowing in accordance with Australian standards that have been set by Consumer Affairs, and those standards provide documentation and certain reports that need to be carried out as well at the property.
So tonight, all our rental providers, it's a brief introduction of what we're doing behind the scenes with the Residential Tenancy Act changes. And the clear understanding is for us, as we've looked at it, Paul, and we touched on before, is that there is 132, but they're to better both parties, to make both safer place, comfortable place to live, and so rental providers can sleep at night knowing that what they're providing to their renter is a safe place for them and their family, because let's be honest, there's a lot of families that live in those rental properties, and it's our obligation to make sure it's the best.
Definitely.
Ed, thanks for taking the time out tonight, and I really do. I know it's late evening for us and all of that, and I know you've got a journey ahead of you, so thank you so much.
Pleasure.
And as I said to all the guys, if you need to know more about that, feel free, reach out to your property manager. Ed's educating, he's got a great team behind it, he's got a great support base behind it, and every one of our property managers are really well educated in this, thanks to Smart House. Thanks, Ed.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks again.
Oh.
Do you want to dance?
So, as we've seen here, guys, tonight, rental providers and to our renters that are actually watching live, we will be sending this link out. And don't forget, any questions, please text them through to Mel and we'll get through them as we go tonight. I've brought Izzy Chan back from the Berwick office. She's very well educated in this and thinks this is a really important part. We're going to talk about disclosure documents and the minimum standards of rental properties. Izzy?
Yep, so before we enter any new rental agreement, we now must disclose certain information about the property to the renter. So this applies for brand new tenancies as well as lease renewals. So you'll find that when we notify you about your renter vacating, we will send you this form to complete, and also when the lease is due for renewal. So there are around 18 different points that we need to provide information on. Some of the examples of things that we must disclose are if an agent has been engaged to sell the property, or if you have plans to sell the property in the future. If there's been a homicide in the property, the dates of the last safety checks as well. And another example is if the property is to be affected by a building or planning application. So I believe that the disclosure statement is a good change because it allows for clear transparency and sort of no discrepancies throughout the tenancy, I suppose.
And that's at the start of the tenancy as well?
Yep, and at the start of any new lease renewal as well.
Awesome. Harry, we're going to move on to obviously the next thing that we need to talk about, pretty important here, rental increases, given the fact that a lot of our rental providers have probably, some of them have deferred rentals, some of them obviously had no income, etc. So it's a pretty tricky spot to navigate through.
It is, yes. So Tenancies Act now, we can only issue one rental increase in every 12-month period. That's nothing really new there. That was pretty much the standard. But what we need to do now is provide solid evidence that the increase we're going to put in place is fair and reasonable. This can be done in a couple of ways. One is a comparative market analysis, which your property manager will do. They'll have a look at your property and other homes that have leased within the past 3 months in the same area, and that will set a benchmark for where your property will sit. The other way is to use CPI, which is the Consumer Price Index, and increase it by that amount. We do need to provide that evidence to our renters, just in case they decide they want to challenge the rent increase or ask for us to negotiate on their behalf.
Again, it's an interesting part of that space because a lot of people that privately rent properties, it's a very scary place for those guys at the moment to be across this. It's such a significant change. While I've got you here, we're going to talk about pool fences. Again, we're coming up to summer in 6 months. We're just going into winter. It's cold, but it's now. We've got to get them ready.
That's right, and we'll keep it brief because not everyone has a pool.
Yep.
But yes, a pool barrier needs to be inspected now every 4 years. Your pool needs to be registered with your local council. Your pool fence itself needs to be checked and have a compliance certificate against it, which then needs to also be registered with your local council. And if the pool fence itself becomes damaged or falls beyond repair, that's now classed as an urgent repair. So a rental provider needs to get that fixed immediately, because it's all about safety and keeping everybody safe around the pool.
And there's 3 different compliances because there was 3 different rules when pools got put in. So this is a very professional place to make sure that you're covered and get onto that very quickly.
Exactly right, and we do have a team that we're using to keep us compliant and make sure that we're ticking all the boxes. So if you do have a pool at your property, get in touch and we can definitely help you out there as well.
Awesome. Izzy, bonds, because this is obviously, I've got a great question here from Rachel, and this might actually help because I do have some concern. Rachel asks about renovations that renters can do. When a renter leaves, do they need to repair what they changed or installed? I don't want a repair bill. So bonds.
Okay. So with bonds, they are now capped at 1 month's rent. So previously we could ask for a higher bond if the rent was $350 per week or higher. Not much has sort of changed. We've always sort of asked for the 1 calendar month's rent up front anyway. Rental providers can, though, however, ask for an additional bond top-up if a renter does a prescribed modification in the property. So the bond must reflect how much it would cost to have that modification rectified back to its original condition.
So, and that obviously answers Rachel's there, depending on the modification, which you guys require, and also in the modification, does the renter have to request for modifications to you?
They still do need to request for permission from the rental provider. There are a few modifications that the renters can do without permission. They are only minor sort of things, so things such as picture hooks or brackets, or putting on the little brackets for the blinds. So that's more of a safety sort of thing there. But that is still to be rectified at the end of the tenancy as well.
Awesome. So another thing here, Harry, we've covered a lot of stuff earlier, and I know we're briefly over because this is our first opportunity, and we're going to drill down over the next 6 months and have more of these events so we can get closer to our rental providers and actually educate and be part of that process of facilitating their growth. What are some of the frequently asked questions that you get that may be of interest to our rental providers?
Yeah, so 2 of the biggest ones are, can I use my own tradesman for my maintenance? And the second is around urgent repairs and the authorised amount that a tenant's now allowed to spend. So first off, maintenance and tradesmen. Yes, of course, you can use your own trade to do any works at your property. We just need to make sure that that tradesman is qualified for the job, so an electrician is an electrician, and that they have the right insurances to be able to go to the property and do the job that needs to be done. But just remember, if you do want to use your own tradesman, call your property manager, pass on your tradesman details so they can try and facilitate an appointment to actually go out to the property. We like to give renters at least 48 hours notice to get around to the property.
And Cassie's got a great question for you, Izzy. Cassie's in that. Which legislation change have you found to be the most challenging?
I would say maybe the notices to vacate, I've found. Getting rid of that 120-day notice is a bit of a game changer for us. it is quite difficult for us to get a renter out of a property if they are on a periodic lease, if you have no intentions to sell that property or move in. So that's one of the ones I've found most challenging.
Yep.
Yeah.
There is one here from Robbie, and I'm going to hand this over to you. I think you're reading on it there now from Robbie. I plan to install solar panels to my rental property. I will pay all the fees. The renter is hesitant to sign the landlord or tenant agreement required by Solar Victoria. How can I convince my renter that it is a positive thing to sign this agreement? As far as I know, the renter earns less than $180,000 a year and the property is worth less than $3 million.
I think we just need to remind the renter that if the solar panels are on the roof of their property, they're the one who is going to be receiving the benefits for rebates. So it's going to help them in the long run by giving them a smaller power bill throughout the year. So there is a benefit for the renter to have these put on.
And I think this is very good where both the property manager, the renter and the rental provider work together to actually have a clear understanding of the outcome. And I think sometimes it's the ability to communicate over anything is powerful. All right, guys, well, I'm going to take this opportunity because, as you said, we've got a lot of things coming out there. We've heard from Ed about some significant changes in the safety check, and everything comes with a certain dollar amount. Now, I've got Cameron Owens from Conveni. He's going to come in with that, so we're just getting him ready to go. But I might talk about pets, Izzy, okay, because there's a big thing about pets going on as Cameron's getting ready. So tell us about pets.
Yep. So renters who want to have a pet in the property, they still, I know a lot of sort of in the media, it's been put out there that all renters are allowed to have pets. So the renters do still need to ask for permission and complete a pet request form. So once we receive that form, us as the agent on behalf of the rental provider has 14 days to either accept the request or make an application to VCAT to refuse the pet. So you have to have a pretty good reason to refuse a pet at the property. So for example, keeping a Great Dane in a tiny little shoebox apartment, not really practical there. So if we don't respond to the renter within 14 days of receiving that application, it's seen as us allowing permission. So I'd just recommend to get a pet clause signed and check with your insurance as well, just to make sure that you're covered.
One of our great trainers, Hayley Mitchell from Mitchell PT Training, she's actually seen no one ever win at VCAT. She was telling me the other day. So there's got to be a really significant reason why pets aren't allowed. And I know this will upset a lot of our rental providers, but it's a clear understanding that she is a superstar at a game, works in the business for a long period of time, and then but hasn't actually seen anyone win at VCAT yet.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting space. And talking about VCAT, Harry, talk to me about this because it's changed a little bit. It's also got a little bit better with online VCAT, etc. As I touched base earlier, in the last 12 months, there were 4,000 VCAT hearings behind. How are we going now?
They're still behind. It's still a struggle. We still have some cases outstanding from last year, but the cases and applications we are putting forward now, they are getting through a lot faster. So for things like termination and possession, we are putting an application in. It's taking about 5 days to get a hearing date back from VCAT. That hearing date is going to be 4 to 8 weeks in advance. So I think I got a hearing a couple of weeks ago and it's for the 10th of August. Yeah. But it's not too bad. It's a lot better than what it was.
It was. So to everyone out there, obviously there's some questions that we've dealt with and obviously we've got VCATs and there's a lot more people that I'm obviously concerned about. We're going to take this chance to get Cameron Owens from Conveni and the team at Conveni here to come in and explain how he's got a product that can help. Thank you. Okay, thanks everyone for allowing us to get Cameron set up here. We've got Cameron Owens, from Conveni. Now, Cameron, do you want to briefly explain your product?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me today, Dean. It's great to be here. So our product is called PropPay, and it's a very simple product, and all it does is help your rental providers pay for any sort of expenses they have attached to running a rental property out of the proceeds of rent. So we pay those expenses up front, and we've heard today some of the events that happen with running a rental property. So we pay for those expenses up front, and then we get paid back out of the proceeds of rent. So it just helps your rental providers have like a cash flow smoothing tool. So that's what PropPay is about.
We met a few years ago. Obviously, you still got into the real estate for looking for advertising to help people sell advertising or fund advertising that, and that's been a significant go. I still think this is the best product in the marketplace, by the way, because of that. As a landlord owner myself, and certainly in this time coming out with these new changes, there has been significant updates in houses.
Yes.
And for a company like yours to come on board and entrust, obviously, companies like ours and partner with companies like ours to actually help facilitate our rental providers is awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
But it's not just the safety checks that we can do for it as well, is it? It's there's a lot. We spoke earlier today about Bronnie that works in our Chelsea office.
Yep.
She lives up in the hills. Obviously, we all sat through that storm that went there long ago. Do you want to tell us what actually happened?
Yeah, absolutely. So this was with Bronwyn Payne at Chelsea, one of my all-time favourite O'Brien's team members. So she had a rental provider, had a bit of bad luck with some damage to a property. And accompanying that was just sort of a number of other expenses that had come through. And this rental provider just actually needed some assistance. So we stepped in and provided the funds to allow them to pay for those expenses. And we're just getting paid back progressively out of the proceeds of rent, essentially over a 12-month horizon. And that allows them to, most importantly, keep that great asset, which is their rental property. And to also enjoy having an income coming through. So that's a fantastic example of us stepping in, helping someone in a difficult situation, because life is difficult from time to time, and giving them a really neat solution.
Yeah, and as I said, the product is just sensational. Now, Izzy, we talk about urgent repairs in certain situations, and given our last 12 months, you've experienced probably more than most, being a team leader there, that some of our landlords obviously weren't in great positions because due to loss of income or loss of work. Mm-hmm. But they've also got an obligation under urgent repairs. Do you want to talk about that as well?
Yes, so an urgent repair is basically a breakdown of any essential item in the property, so whether that be a hot water system, heating. It now also includes cooling, if there's cooling in the property. So these type of things, when they break down, obviously it's quite a big expense. So the limit on urgent repairs for us to authorise on behalf of the rental provider now has also been increased. So previously this was $1,800 and it's now $2,500. So it's quite a big expense.
It is a big expense, and interestingly enough, obviously with the changes coming through, we're definitely seeing a need to step in and assist the rental providers, and to just most importantly allow them to basically trade through that complexity. Mm-hmm. So we'll step in and provide the funds and just allow them to pay us back over up to 24 months, which just allows them to keep the asset, protect the asset, provide a home in great shape. And it's just proving to be a very neat and simple solution.
It's a great product.
For
Excellent.
People out there.
Some of the other things we've actually used it on, and you've helped us with some of our customers, is issues like land tax.
Yes, that's right.
Rates.
Insurance,
etc. like that. I think, when we talk about prop pay, it is property pay services. So a lot of our landlords sit out there, and I know obviously with the value of property going up, for a lot of our landlord is the value of their land tax is going up for our multiple landlord. And some of these bills, especially in growth areas, etc., they're probably not ready for it. And as you said, they haven't received the income that they would normally receive over that period of time. You've helped us out on that. So, I thought land tax was a fantastic rates, insurances, etc. like that.
Because they're just actually looking for something to just smooth out that hump.
Yeah.
And that's what the product does. It's essentially a cash flow smoothing tool, and it's just very simple. There's no credit checks, and we provide the funds essentially within 24 hours. And most importantly, the rental provider can just get on with life and feel secure that they've got that great asset there, which you'd know better than me, Dean, is growing exponentially in value.
And this is the thing that I, as a business owner, and obviously my job is to facilitate growth, actually sometimes I feel awkward in situations over the last 12 months at the pressure these landlords have had. I do respect the fact that tenants have a right to, but obviously with a lot of that moratorium, our landlords hurt probably just as much as the tenants.
Yeah.
And this is a real concern because, landlords do provide a place for people to stay.
Yeah.
As do tenants pay for the right to stay in a complete, comfortable and safe spot.
Yeah.
But there wasn't a lot of noise around in the media around how tough landlords were doing it. And I find that a little bit disappointing because I think it needs to be a fair measure of that. But you've come in to help us out, and that's what I like about that. And we want to reach out. The easiest way to do convening is you can't go direct to you guys. You must go through a recognised business.
That's right, and naturally work through your property manager. They are very familiar with obviously the product that we have, and again, it's just a very simple process. There's no complexity to it. There's no credit checks, and you will have the funds within 24 hours and the work can be performed and you can keep your fantastic asset in your portfolio.
And that's the best thing about it, because with history shows that growth in property is there. We might have some little speed bumps along the way, but history will actually show that the longer you keep it, the better off you are. And that's what I say here, and I wrote down here, that is probably one of the best products that's been in the marketplace to help our rental providers to continue that, especially after the last 12, 18 months that they've had to go through. And it's a credit to you and the team there, yourself,
thank you,
and Sam and the team that are always happy to be part of our organisation. So thanks very much for taking your time out tonight. But for anyone out there, one of the things we want you to do, if you are under pressure as a rental provider, don't sit in silence. Reach out to your property manager. They'll reach out to Cameron and the team at Conveni, and that way we can actually make the next year the very best year to help you get through it.
Fantastic.
Awesome. Thanks again,
sir.
Cameron.
Pleasure.
Awesome.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
So, to all our rental providers out there tonight, there's a couple of questions here, and I'll send this off to Izzy. One, are there major changes to regulation in fencing heights?
No changes to fencing or fencing heights.
Yeah. We wrote, obviously, Cassie spoke about what's the toughest legislation. I think they're all pretty tough.
Yeah.
So, from that side of it. But as we're drawing to the end of our evening tonight, we didn't want to keep you on board for too long. We wanted you to actually get an impact and an opportunity to introduce ourselves, what we're bringing to the future at O'Brien Real Estate. We will continue to do these. We'll also be sending out links to that, and feel free to send them on to anyone that you think that have value in that. But to have nights like this, I've got to thank many people. First, I've got to thank the team here at Croc Media. In here, they run a fantastic show. They got us through a whole COVID lockdown when we were doing auctions online. They've facilitated our gala awards now, and now doing our first ever landlord or rental provider night from here. I've got to thank the partnerships with Cameron, people like Cameron from Conveni and the team there, and also Ed Brown, who's been in tonight. And as we move forward over the next 12 months, we'll get more partners in here. I've got to stand out to, obviously, Isabel Chan and Harry Turner that have researched, navigated this and are at the top of their game. To the team at O'Brien Real Estate, I really must thank you for obviously being part of what has been an enormous growth pattern for us. As you said, whatever stimulus we've learned, it's how we grow, it's how we dealt with it. But to all you rental providers and renters that are part of the O'Brien family, we wish you a very successful 2021-22 financial year. We're here to help. And most of all, I hope you've enjoyed, again, what we're doing, and we're only going to get better at it. So have a great night and stay safe. Thank you.